Aloha and welcome to Truth in Movies. I'm JayDreamerZ, and today we're breaking down the movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Have you ever wondered, just looked up at the sky at night and wondered if there's another version of you out there on another version of Earth somewhere? And then just kind of wondering how you're doing, hoping that you're doing better than you are, or just kind of speculating, like, I wonder if there's another reality where I changed my path, or I did things differently. That's what this movie is going to check out. We're going to get really deep into this one. Before we do, though, I want to respond to a comment that I saw in the chat yesterday when we were talking about giant growth and gigantism. So I had mentioned I was going to review this movie, and so someone in the chat had said, JayDreamerZ, you are not a scientist, and Disney films are not graduate science courses. First, let me just say this, and this is for all of you. The reason I'm bringing this up is not because it bothers me, but because I don't want it to bother any of you. You are a scientist. If you learn, you're a scientist. Science means knowledge. A scientist is somebody who acquires knowledge. It's a truth seeker on a different level, right? We have academic science and academics whose science and whose learning has to be approved by somebody else according to their perspective and how they see it. So just because somebody else says, oh, you don't have a certificate or you don't have a diploma or whatever, does not mean that you're not the things that you believe you are. I am a wizard. I am a sorcerer. I am a magician. You'll see in this movie that Doctor Strange brings these things to life, that they are real. Magic is real. Electromagnetism is real. Plasma is real. All of these different sciences and courses of study are also seen through the perspective of and the perspective and the lens of the belief systems of the beholder. Okay, so if somebody says, "Oh, you're not this or you're not that," because that's their reality, which you got to respect. That's very real to them. But it doesn't dismiss your reality, right? Now, the movie's going to talk about this and touch on it. Is it right to infringe upon other people's reality, what is real to them, just because you believe yours is better? That's what we're going to look into. So let's check it out. It's good to see everybody in the chat. I see Thomas Lambros in the chat. We got Basics Phyllis, Sean Holiday, Aaliyah's in the chat. All right, sweet. Well, let's jump into the movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If you've never seen any of the Marvel movies or any of the Doctor Stranges, it's totally fine because you're going to now, and it's going to be a good time. So let's start off by who makes the movie. Marvel. All red, right? Red is the symbol for the red sky, for magic being reintroduced into our world, for vitality, for life, for danger, all of the things that are associated. If we go way back in time with the color red, because our sky changes red and we associate that red color with the conditions or the new conditions of a magical world, of a world filled with electromagnetic influx or spirit, if you'd like to say that. Now check this out. What about the word Marvel? We tend to skim over these words like Marvel. Oh, Marvel. Oh, what is Marvel? It's a company. It's a company that makes movies and cartoons and stuff. That's the label. What does the word mean? Why does Marvel mean to be in awe of something? To be basically to infer that you're looking at something fantastic and unbelievable, to marvel at something. It breaks down to two words. Maru, remember we talked about that V used to be the letter U, right? So it's Maru El. El means God or gods or mighty leaders, mighty ones. We're talking about heroes of old. This is real, by the way. To me, in my reality, where I'm from, on Earth number, whatever this one is, right? It's my reality that there is a such thing as superheroes, as superpowers, as telekinesis and telepathy and teleportation and all of these things, that we have forgotten about those things, about those truths, because we've become accustomed to the way that the world is now. So the movie is brought to you by, if I'm going to translate, the mighty ones of Mount Meru, or the leaders of the mountain, Maru, which means up out of the waters. It's a mountain that comes up out of the waters. All right, so let's start off today and see what we got. Hey, thanks for the donation too. Super appreciate you. Regular Absolution, I see you in there. All right, so the things start off, we're out there somewhere. We don't know where we are, but we do see it looks like everything's kind of floating around. And there's like all these pillars, sort of ancient Atlantean, Greco-Roman looking buildings all over the place. If you look right in the middle, Doctor Strange is right there on the staircase in the middle. You see that? So there's Doctor Strange, and he's running with this girl who I'm going to introduce you to in a minute. She's the key character. She's the most unlikely hero, which is what many of these stories are about, and she becomes the most important of them all. So they're running away through some floating staircase out in, the heavens somewhere, and they're being chased by this creepy plasma monster thing out there in space too. I've seen many of these types. There are types in the movies, there are types in books that reflect an ancient origin, right? For example, there is this sort of space plasma type that usually is black or has a magenta type of color to it, and it's out to get people. So in this, it's out to get Doctor Strange and his companion. So he's fighting, shooting the fireballs at it. They're running away, taking off. She's like, did that kill it? Because he threw ice at it. He turned this fire monster thing into ice, this plasma monster into ice. She's like, did that kill it? No, it didn't, because it's plasma. And symbolically, they're going to start off showing you that the ice of our sky, or the ice of a protective barrier, does not keep out plasma forever. It can hold it off, but it eventually will get through. So he's like, no, that won't kill it, but that's how we kill it. Now check this out. What you're looking at right now is not Doctor Strange, not the one that you're used to at least. This is some random Doctor Strange from some random universe. You've never even seen this Doctor Strange before. At least I haven't, okay? He's new to me watching the Marvel movies. So this is really interesting. I love it when the movies do this, because you got to figure out where you are in the entire multiverse. And if you're unfamiliar with that concept, there is our universe with all of our, whatever is here in our local realm, right? I have different ideas about that. But then there are other ones, essentially. Or if you're looking at this from a DC Comics point of view, it is infinite Earths. Okay, so imagine when you look out there into the sky, into the heavens of space or whatever, instead of thinking of Jupiter and Venus and all these weird, other planets, they are all Earth. They are all infinite Earths out there, infinite worlds. Any world that is a container for human beings or whatever is basically Earth number such and such, right? So this is Doctor Strange from Earth number such and such. He's managed to outrun this thing. He says, that's how we kill it. Now he points to this bluish white light in the middle of the screen there. And that bluish white light is surrounded by these 4 columns. And in the middle of it is this book. It's a sacred book. And he needs this book to kill this plasma monster that's chasing after them. In the middle of the sky there, you can also see there's the total all-seeing eye in the sky symbolism with the circles and the branches coming out from the middle. And they're running away from this thing, and he says, don't let it take your power. So this is symbolic of plasma to me. There's different types, right? Different energies of plasma, or spirit, you could say. You could interchange many of the words that I'm using. But there's good spirits and there's bad spirits. There's spirits that seek to add to itself, to empower itself. And then there's spirits or energies that seek to add to and to help out to empower everything else, right? All right, so they're running away from this plasma monster thing, and they said, how do we get across? A leap of faith. They need to get to this book, this blue light that's surrounded by 4 pillars on this circular island in the middle of some kind of space underneath an all-seeing eye. Of course, you're going to have to make a leap of faith. I think we put that together by a few of our videos now. James, hey, thanks for the donation, James. Super appreciate it. Right on. All right, so they take their leap of faith, they jump, they land on this sort of mock rainbow bridge type of thing, and they slide their way onto the 4 pillars where they're trying to get to that blue light. That symbolically is the blue beam that I talk about quite frequently. There's a better picture of the all-seeing eye symbolism there in the middle. They never explain what this thing is in the movie. They never tell you why it's there. I wanted them to break it. I thought they were going to break it the whole time, but in a way, symbolically, they will later on. I'll show you. All right, so they do their superhero landing from their leap of faith. Why did they not just get crushed? Because whatever it is that keeps us stuck to the earth, thank you, irregular absolution, whatever it is that keeps us stuck to the earth or grounded, right? Those conditions can be manipulated. They can be changed so that what people commonly call gravity is redirected and changed and goes into different directions, right? It also has a lot to do with buoyancy and density and things of that nature too. We'll get into that in another video. Right now, let's get back to the movie. So this creature's roaring. Boom! It blocks their path. So this plasma monster is blocking their path from getting to this blue light, and he wraps it up using magic in this this stone ball. And by the way, this is the first time I watched this. When I sat down to take all of these screenshots of this, this is the first time I ever seen it, right? So it's really interesting for me. So then around this ball made of stone, you could say it's kind of like a little world, right? Now that in the middle of this little world that he just has is plasma. So there's an inner sun symbolism. It's the inner sun symbolism. And then he wraps this sort of force field around it, just like there is a force field wrapped around our world. But this Doctor Strange turns out to have other ideas on how to save the multiverse. He thinks that he needs to kill this girl by taking her power. That monster's after this girl, and it wants to take away her power. We'll learn more about her power in a minute, but she has the power to traverse the multiverse. She can just go anywhere she wants. She's a fractalverse traveler, in my own words. And she doesn't know how to use it, though. She doesn't know how to use her power. So he starts to steal her power because he doesn't want the bad guys to get it, and he thinks it's better to just kill the one for the sake of the many, basically, right? Which is another problem that people run into when they start becoming bad guys is, do we kill the one and save the many, or does that one life really matter that much as the many, right? Are they equal? Good question. He says, I can't let that thing take your power. You can't control it. So he's sucking the blue beam power or energy out of her. The blue beam energy is the magic heart energy of the earth, of the world. It's vril, it's inner earth plasma, it's spirit energy, and it represents the goodness. It represents the adding to quality of magic rather than the taking away from. And then she says, you're killing me. And he's like, I know it. I know. But in the grand calculus of the multiverse, see, now he's literally murdering this girl. And she just tells him, like, hey, remember, you're killing me right now. Like, this contradicts your whole purpose of saving people, right? And promoting life and stuff. But then he gets very robotic. He gets very left-brained, and he says the ends justify the means, right? That's the type of mindset that we are battling. At least I'm battling here in this reality. From time to time, is that they want us to think that the ends justify the means. Like, hey, whatever's happening is okay, basically, because there's a greater grand purpose to it all, or whatever. So he says, your sacrifice is worth more than your kapow. So the plasma tentacle monster shoots its tentacle up through him and kills him, right? And as you can see, it's tentacles out there in space. I love it when the movies show space tentacles. You see there's even little circles and stuff. This is totally tentacles, right? Anytime you see space tentacle symbolism or space tentacles in comic books, in the movies, etc., it is representing plasma, right? Because that's one of the ways that plasma is portrayed. Sometimes it's worms in the sky, sometimes it's dragons and stuff. Oftentimes it's tentacles when it's out there in space, right? And sometimes those tentacles are attached to like a one-eyed monster, which I might actually be showing you here in a second. All right, so the tentacle monster grabs the girl who symbolically represents the blue beam of our world, Sophia, the goddess of knowledge, etc. And she's standing right there next to her icon, which is the blue light emanating from a book, a tome, a scroll, a writing, a scripture, right? Now check this out. Those writings physically are symbolically shown to you as a book, something that you would have to open up and physically read, etc. Books often are symbolically said to be us. You are a living book. There are words written upon the tablet of your heart, which is really your mind when I say heart. So you have these words that are written upon and imprinted upon you, right? You carry magic spells. You carry that magic tome or that book within you. So oftentimes the book is also symbolic of us, of a person. All right, so she's tied up. she's being stretched out. There's the X symbolism, etc. And there is a star that opens up behind her. It's a star portal in the shape of this 5-pointed star. Every time she opens up a portal, it opens up a stargate that's in the shape of a star. And that star is always this whitish, bluish color, right? And that represents the blue beam that shoots up from the middle of each of the Earths, each of the different worlds during their polarity shift events, right? Their depressurization events. And it opens up the portal into the sky so that you can leave. And it also opens up the portals to go within the Earth so you can go inside as well. All right, so the portal opens up. She's being stretched out by the bad guy. They're both fighting the bad guy's trying to like take her power and keep her in this reality, and she's trying to get away. Then they do a little meanwhile, and they show you this church that Doctor Strange is about to attend. The church is one of those really pointy kind of cathedral type churches you can see. This is a different art, and they do this purposefully in the movies quite often. If you look close enough, you can see in the middle of this church right here is a similar structure to the all-seeing eye thing that they showed you out there in space, and it's been emblazoned upon the wall of this church. Why? Because the church was designed to work with the all-seeing eye and the plasma and the plasma tentacles and the snakes and the electricity and stuff like that, right? It was all of these structures were designed in a way that worked with the atmosphere of the time that they were built, right? Some atmosphere, sometimes carried with them an atmosphere that was electrically charged. Sometimes it was the electricity was waning and it was gone basically, and it's very little, so they tried to amplify it by their building structures. All right, so they show you that Doctor Strange is on the inside. He's going to a wedding. Now the wedding is the girl of his dreams, unfortunately, so this one's kind of a heartbreaker. So he's like, he's trying to keep it cool, you know what I mean? But this is his problem. His problem is he can't let go of his lost love. Okay, like every time he messes it up with this girl, and she orders some wine. So he's like, well, excuse me, and he takes the water you can see down there, and he makes a little hand gesture, fa-pow, does the little satanic devil horns, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I love you, all kinds of different things. People interpret that as. And there's good reason to that. I'm going to talk about his hand gestures and magic spells in a bit as well. But he turns the water into wine. Interesting to me as well, because the water above turns into, or looks like it turns into, wine. It becomes wine dark. It becomes red, apocalyptically speaking, right? There are various references to the skies turning red, and the skies pouring down red substance that was interpreted as blood and all kinds of other things too. So the water turns into wine. That's one of the apocalyptic omens. Then he says, then she's like, it was never going to work out between us, you know, because he's like, man, I still kind of like you, you know, this sucks. I'm at your wedding right now. It's to some other dude. And I can't, in his mind, you got to be thinking, because we've all thought this, right? Like, is there another universe out there where I didn't screw things up, where I didn't mess things up, where things went the way I would have hoped that they would have went, right? That's what's going through his mind. Then all of a sudden, some invisible creature starts causing havoc downtown. So he has to jump off the balcony and fly down to help out, right? Nobody can see what this thing is, but it picks up a bus. Now remember, bus is the exact same word as box. It means container, right? And a container that held a bunch of things was called an omnibus, or a bus or a container that holds a bunch of things. And that gives us the word bus, like, you know, school bus and city bus, etc. It is a symbol for our world. Now, our world symbolically is being picked up by this monster that we can't see right now. It's invisible, and shows us the front windows of the bus, which bust out. So the glass breaks on the world symbolically. Right? The sky shatters. The highest, hardest glass ceiling of the world shatters. It breaks. After the bus has its windows break, this is symbolic of our sky depressurizing and exploding, basically. He walks up onto it. He's got his, that's actually this symbol right here. It should go together. Okay. So really what it is it's this right here, which is, there's an eye in the middle. There's the letter shin, or a tooth, on the top. And, I mean, it kind of looks like a mask or something, but he pulls it apart. It's all very symbolic. doing those things. Now, okay, let me talk about that real quick. Will doing certain hand gestures or whatever make magic happen, make you be able to like pick up school buses and toss them aside or whatever? I mean, I believe there's truth to everything. I say that in our reality and in the atmospheric conditions that we have right now and the very little magic that we have right now, it's going to be more difficult to accomplish that task. I believe that when your spirit energy becomes amplified, that your very thought and your intentions come outward from the body, that you're able to manipulate your aura or your chakras or your outer soul body. I don't know how you want to describe it. And you're able to move things about like that. And for some people, they need an outside pointer. Okay, for some people like Doctor Strange, they need to do hand signals because that's how it's a key. It's a connector in the mind. It allows them to do their magic. It allows them to exercise their will a little bit easier. So with that being said, Doctor Strange is actually a little weaker than we would have thought because he has to use his hands. Okay, whereas a stronger person who is strong in the Force or magic, they don't have to use their hands. They just simply will things to happen, and they happen. All right, so anyways, after the windows break, we can see the monster is revealed. The monster is a tentacle monster with one eyeball, who, by the way, if you play the old video games, is one of the characters in the old video games as well. Shumagorath, I think. He's a tentacle monster with one eye. Always represents the all-seeing eye, always represents Medusa, the Kronos, the eye in the sky, etc., because it's the hole opening up in our world and the plasma, twisting out of it. Excuse me. All right, now in the middle there, it's hard to see, but they break open the bus, and you can see there's this girl hanging inside of the bus. And Doctor Strange is doing the hanging man symbolism, right? Typically, we associate this with peace, right? You want to bring peace. So he puts his hands up while he's doing his magic spells. Peace is a part of that. He's literally tearing the bus into pieces, but he's also bringing peace by keeping her safe, etc. And then she's the hanging man that's inside of the bus. She escapes. The bus is cut right in half. That's symbolic of the world splitting, right? Of the dome above us, I should say, the sky splitting, really. The earth splits, just like the veil is split in the Bible, in the Book of Revelation, during their apocalyptic events that they describe. Now, this one-eyed monster, tentacle monster, stands over this girl, and I love this. See, right? This is cool. This is the most unbelievable thing ever, okay? Right? Like no normal person in this reality, in Earth number, whatever this is going to look at Doctor Strange movie and see the one-eyed tentacle monster that looks like it's as cheesy as something back from the 50s, some sci-fi from the 50s or 40s or something, right? And they're not going to grasp anything of substance from that. However, the reason it becomes so cheesy and so almost tasteless in the world, in the modern age that we live in today, is because of the truth that it contains. We have shunned the truth away from ourselves, and the truth itself has become foreign to us to such a degree that we consider it to be ridiculous and fantasy and fiction. So that's why I like all this weird retro sci-fi type imagery. All right, so the girl's running away. She's got the star on her back, by the way, because she represents the star, as we talked about, the North Star, the point at the middle of our world. The creature is going after her. Doctor Strange jumps up to save the day. Now check this out. This Doctor Strange is wearing blue, which indicates that he's probably more in his good guy phase when they wear blue. But let's take a closer look at this, because stuff like this passes by very quickly. If we zoom in and we look at where they decided to place Doctor Strange, it is right in front of this store, which I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here so you can see. Man, I gotta zoom in like a bunch. Well, it says it right there. Jonas and James. You see that right there? Right next to the wizard, right next to the magician, they show him standing in front of some department store or something called Jonas and James, and it's done purposefully. This is a set. They have set him there. They have purposefully placed him there because there is symbolism behind that name. Jonas and James harken back to biblical times. Now, it always blows my mind. Some people will be like, oh man, you can't get any knowledge out of a Disney movie or a Marvel movie or whatever. They talk about, they talk about tentacle monsters attacking people and stuff. Jonas and James comes from Jonas and Jambres in the Bible, okay? And these were wise men or magicians, magi, wizards, that fought and opposed Moses in front of the Pharaoh before the Hebrews left Egypt, right? When Moses was insisting, hey, you got to let my people go. So Moses stood up against the system, says, let my people go. And then they're like, well, who are you? Do you have any power? Should we listen to you? Moses throws down his staff, which is also symbolic. And it turns into a serpent. After the other two, Jonas and Jambres, they throw down their staffs and it becomes snakes. And Moses' staff eats the other two. So the two staffs, the two snakes, become one with Moses's, which is really interesting. Anyways, these are very famous magicians, not just in the Bible, but many books of antiquity. The Bible is just one book that mentions them. And the Bible also has other stories where it talks about, like, for example, Jonas and Jambres. They were the sons of another powerful wizard in the Bible. See, the Bible talks about magic. The Bible talks about like very real spellcraft, magic, sorcery, all of these things, right? People these days, especially religious people, they're just kind of like told, like, don't look that way. Like, don't even ask about that. You don't even want to know what that is, to the point where people don't believe it's real. They don't even believe that it exists. Yet, if you read books like the Old Testament in the Bible and so many other ones, you will see that they're speaking about magic as a matter of fact, as if it was an accepted thing during the time that they wrote these stories, right? So that people would understand and they wouldn't be like, oh, this is just some, grab the popcorn. This is good fiction. No, they understood that it was real. So anyways, Jonas and Jambres, they were the sons of an even more powerful magician, or sorcerer or wizard. And in this, it says his name was Balaam. There's a story where Balaam, this powerful wizard, is on a journey. He's on the back of a donkey. And the donkey Balaam's beating the donkey because it's going the wrong way. And the donkey looks up and starts talking to him like, man, what are you beating me so much for? Like, what's the problem? Right? And Balaam's like, the reason I'm beating you is because you're not going the way I tell you to. Anyway, my point is, it's a talking donkey in the Bible. Okay. And then these days, people would even religious scholars would be like, oh, that part right there just happens to be symbolic. That part's a metaphor. That part you're supposed to internalize or whatever. Pfft. Or not. Or it was a talking donkey. Or animals could speak at some point in time, right? Back when there was wizards and magicians and stuff, because our world was full of energy, unlike today. All right, so anyways, in order to beat this one-eyed tentacle monster, Doctor Strange summons some titanic hands from the nether regions, and he grabs a rod that's sticking up out of the ground, a pole. The pole, I already knew before it even showed this. I'm like, he's going to jam that right in the middle of the monster's eye. Boom, jams the pole into the monster's eye. There's a million different ways that they could have had Doctor Strange defeat this monster, but there was one way that it was destined to happen. It must happen this way. Why? Because of what it symbolically represents. The rod god, or the pole, or the beams of light that shoot up from within the world that stab the opening in the eye because it meets it right there in the sky, because they're both located one above the other. All right, so he's fighting this guy. He totally kills him, plucks out his eyeball, which was really gory and gross. And he says, but what bothers me is that last night you were in my dream. Now he's talking to this Spanish girl, right? She doesn't have like really amazing powers or anything. She's just one of those characters that's just a regular person, doesn't know how to use their power, or might not know that they have them sometimes, like in the movie Encanto. And she says that wasn't a dream. So Doctor Strange dreamt about her and him killing her and stuff. She's like, that wasn't a dream. It was in another universe. So they go and they have a chat, and he says, you can physically move from one universe to another. She says, yes, my power is that I can travel the multiverse, but I can't control it. See, that's another time, right? That's another thing. One, it's symbolic. If she's symbolic of the blue beam that shoots up the tree of life, etc., it's not something that seems to be controlled like somebody can control it. There are people who will try to control it and try to manipulate it, but it seems to happen at its own whim. Now, the other thing is, those of us who have a trace of that blue beam spirit energy, I'll call it, it's hard for us to control that power because we're not taught. There is no Xavier's School for the Gifted in this world that we live in today. I mean, I'll build one. I'd love to have one. I'd love to have all kinds of students. Oh man, that would be great, wouldn't that? Right? To have our own little kind of school type of thing or whatever, where like, people are taught about like powers, like real stuff, and they're taught how to like improve upon those and prepare for themselves for when they can actually exercise them. It is. I think that's awesome. But we're going to meet Professor X here in a little while. She cannot control her powers. Most of us cannot control ours because we run on instinct, right? Our powers, those of us who have powers, and I'm talking very realistically, not symbolically, not internalizing your power. I'm talking about real, actual ESP, telepathy, electromagnetic powers. I'm talking about real powers that are very weak and minimal right now. You have experienced it. I know you have, because I have many times. We have power. It's just that whenever it happens, we shrug it off as being anomalous, right? Because that's what the rest of the world wants us to do. She says it only happens when I'm really afraid. Well, when you're really afraid or really happy is when many of these things tend to manifest, because those are extremely powerful feelings. So she's like, you wanted me to get to this Book of Vishanti. So they're trying to find the Book of Vishanti in order to escape that monster that's after them, that plasma monster. The Book of Vishanti. So let's check this word out. Vishanti. Vish is the exact same as the beginning root word of Vishnu, right? Vishnu is for all intents and purposes, is the religious form in Hinduism of the blue beam, or Jesus, etc. Krishna is one of Vishnu's avatars. So here it says Vishnu. It says in the 10th part of the Padma Purana, it lists 108 names of Vishnu, and these include 10 primary avatars. So Vishnu had 10 primary avatars. Vish is what the beginning of this book starts off. Vish and then Anti, right? So here's Vishnu, by the way. He's the blue beam with, 2 hands up, 2 hands down. It's the squatter man symbolism, etc. There's another sweet one. I like that picture. That's a really cool Vishnu. I like that one. And then, so Dr. Strange is like, the Book of Vishanti, it's not real. And by the way, Vishnu and then T at the end, the Vishanti, T just means 10. So it's like 10 Vishnus, basically. He's like, it's not real. Okay, Dr. Strange, magician from alternate reality number whatever, telling me that something's not real just because, you've never seen it or whatever. It's a fairy tale. It doesn't exist. So the fairy tale guy is looking at you and saying, oh, that's too fantastic for me to believe, right? When he's like just battled a one-eyed octopus tentacle monster that's the size of a 5-story building, you know what I mean? Like, it just blows my mind what people refuse to believe. Excuse me. Now, if he's not into that kind of thing, that's different. If he's like, I'm not really interested in, magical books. But you would think that he would be, being he's Doctor Strange. Then his buddy corrects him. He's like, actually, it does exist, bro. And she says, that wasn't a dream when you had me, when you were dreaming, basically. That wasn't a dream. That was reality. You were getting a glimpse into the multiverse. So he says, prove it. So she takes him up to the top of the building where she has his dead multiverse other body lying on the rooftop. And he goes, oh my God, dreams are windows into the lives of our multiversal selves. Now let's think about that one for just a bit. What if dreams were windows where basically, let's imagine that you have what I'll call a soul spirit or a soul tether or a soul string, okay? And that soul string, however thin it might be, always connects you all the way up to the other versions of you, and you all share a soul string together that together intertwine and make a soul rope or whatever, like your true self, I'll say. When you sleep, you're able to pick up on these truths that are being given to you of other realities, of other paths, right? To sort of review and reflect internally on everything that has happened to you collectively, not just everything that's happened to you, which is you, who you think you are in this body right here, right now, experiencing JayDreamerZ live stream or recorded video if you're watching and you're a future person, right? Not that you, all of you. Interesting. It gets deep. So that recurring nightmare where I'm running naked from a clown, his buddy's joking, sort of, right? But she honestly answers and says, somewhere out there, it's real. Now let's talk about this little side comment that he makes. This is supposed to be for comedic value. So the reoccurring nightmare when I'm running naked from a clown. So he's talking about a bad dream, a nightmare, where he's scared, he's naked, and he's running from a clown. Now they're saying there is a multiverse, there is a reality where that happens. Right? But it seems cartoonified to us because we're also receiving those images, those little glimpses into our otherworldly, other universal selves. We're still passing those messages through the filters of our own brain and our own auras and our own experiences and stuff that we have here as individuals. So there is a reality where he would be running around naked because let's say he survives the apocalypse, makes it into the next world. The atmosphere is totally different. People don't need to wear clothes anymore. So they're just walking around naked like they originally do and should whenever there's no need for clothing. And then there's these clowns. They're the killer clown archetypes from outer space usually. They are the gods. They are the El, the Elohim, the Anunnaki, etc. Right? And they typically are portrayed as being very pasty, piano key, white-skinned. So that could very well be a reality, not a joke. Somewhere out there, it's real. So they're like, hey, what's your name, little girl? Anyway, she says, my name is America Chavez. Okay, let's be direct then, shall we? Right? They're going to be talking about the United States. They're going to be talking about America, right? They're going to be throwing some hints to those of us who live here in the free country or whatever, basically saying you people are not free, but you can be. You have the potential. All right. So her name is America Chavez, right? What does Chavez mean? It is Spanish for key or keys, right? She is a key to something. She is the key to something. That's Chavez. Chavez. What does America mean? Well, dang, let me make that a little tiny bit smaller. It's hard to see, but the prefix a means without. The Greek prefix a means without. So America means without America. Let's figure out what America means. Mer comes from let's see, Proto-Indo-European root word meaning to rub away or to harm, possibly identical to the root word mer that means to die and forms words referring to death and begins the subject of death. So Amer means without death, implying immortal. Interesting, right? Amer. The I, just means me. It means my. It means possessive. It means myself, right? So without death or immortal, my immortal, I am immortal, etc. Right? And then ka. Ka comes from Proto-Indo-European root word meaning to like or to desire. And quite often it's synonymous with things like soul or spirit, chi, ka, stuff like that. Snakes also. If you see the Jungle Book, right? The snake in the Jungle Book is named Ka, right? Because plasma takes the form of snakes, etc., right? So my eternal soul, my eternal life, my immortality, my not dying, basically, is what America translates into. Land of the immortals, etc. Now we go back to Wanda. Let's check out Wanda. Who is Wanda? She basically, that's her regular human name, but she's also known as the Scarlet Witch. Okay, she was one of the Avengers for a little bit. But let's check out what she's doing right now. She's walking into her kids' room. She's just a mom, got a couple. She's not just a mom. Being a mom is awesome. Being a parent is awesome. She walks into the kids' room, 2 kids on each side. She's having a dream though. It's not real. She was dreaming about being with her children, which means she doesn't have her children. They were taken away from her. They died or they're gone, right? And I've not seen the whole WandaVision series yet, but I have done some research on it. So she's dreaming. Now watch what they do with the camera as she starts to wake up. It's all twisting. See how the perspective goes, and it's almost like an upside down twisting rotational type of thing. That shows you that they're switching realities, right? When they show you the camera's twisting like that, that means that symbolically you have gone through a portal with the characters themselves. You have gone through a change with those characters. So Doctor Strange is like, hey, we need your help. We need to get this girl to safety or whatnot. It's really interesting. The tree in the background takes the shape of a sigh as well. You can see that there's sheep walking around in her yard. She has these apple trees that she's grown in her little garden with all of her little sheep walking around that she's tending, right? Doctor Strange is trying to recruit her to get some help. Now, let's take a look at Wanda and see, what does Wanda mean, right? I know it's kind of small for you, but the word Wanda comes from wand, W-A-N-D, right? It says it's Old Norse vander, which means rod or a switch. A rod is a beam. It is akin to a tree and a pole, etc. The same thing that was used to stab that other beast in the eyeball. That's what her name means. It also says Middle Swedish wander. This is where we get the word wander or wanderer, somebody who wanders around. Because the people who come from the area of the blue beam, when it retracts, they become wanderers. They become vagabonds in the world. They become the lost tribes. They spread out and they go settle down in other places because there's no need for them to stay there because the beam of the world, the tree of life, is gone. It also is where we get wind, because the wind moves about, and it's also related to the word twist. So wind, W-E-N-D instead of wand. Wind comes from the Proto-Indo-European wend, which means to turn, to wind, and to weave. So twisting, twisted. And all of these things put together gives us the image of some sort of a sorcerer, a witch, a wizard, that, you know, the type of people who are powerful. They're twisted, they're different, and they're wanderers. They wander about, right? So quite often you'll see witches that are named Windy or things like that. It also comes from Celtic, vindo, which means white. I told you a lot of these characters are named after the color white in a lot of these movies. She possesses what is known as chaos magic. That is her power, right? Chaos magicians are real. Chaos magic is a real thing that exists in our world. At least that is the reality of many people who are in this world. So let's talk about what is chaos magic and what makes her powerful, right? Chaos magicians believe that our perceptions are conditioned by our beliefs. Our perceptions, the way that we see and perceive reality, are conditioned, are changed by our beliefs. Those things that we have rooted ourselves in order to figure out where we are comparatively, right? That's called your construct of your reality, what is real to you. We share many similar constructs, because we have many similar things in common. But ultimately, every reality is different to each individual. And ultimately, every reality is the exact same on the highest level. All right, so chaos magicians believe that our perceptions are conditioned by our beliefs, that we can change the world as we perceive it by deliberately changing those beliefs. By changing your beliefs, the things that you believe in, the things that you have rooted yourself in order to figure out where you belong in comparison to those flags that you have planted, or that we have planted, or that I have planted, being honest. We can change the world by changing our beliefs. That is why she is so powerful, right? Interesting. We're going to come back to that. Another thing within the subject study of chaos magic is called the cut-up technique. Now, let me share this one real quick. Hold on. This one's pretty interesting. If I could figure out where it is. There it is. I'm going to scooch this over just a tad. And I'm going to make this bigger. There we go. I want you to be able to see this. So there's a technique within chaos magic, and it's called cut up technique. Check this out, okay? This perfectly describes my Truth in Movies segment that I do here on my channel. That's what I'm doing with my Truth in Movies segment. The cut up technique is an aleatory literary technique in which a written text, a book, is cut up and rearranged, often at random, to create a new text. The technique can also be applied to other media, including film, photography, audio recordings, etc. Oh man, that's so interesting. Hold on, let me put that back to where I had it. Okay, cool. All right, so the cut up technique. Basically, you cut up a work, a complete work, a book, a movie, it doesn't matter. You cut it up, you rearrange it, and it still gives you a story. And as a matter of fact, they go on to say, perhaps events are pre-written and pre-recorded, and when you cut word lines, the future leaks out. David Bowie compared the randomness of the cut-up technique to the randomness inherent in traditional divinatory systems like the I Ching. So this is what we're doing. This is why this works, because it's all connected. It's all fractal. It is all telling the same story over and over and over until we get it, until we overcome, until we defeat the reality that we are in. It is all encoded. It's all over the place, and it's called the cut-up technique. It doesn't matter which way you slice it. It's all going to happen over and over and over again. It's a never-ending story. And that's why you have some people I saw in the chat. People are like, hey, the multiverse theory is popping up all over the place. You know, it's in Pixar films. It's in DC Comics. It's in Marvel. It's in all over the place, right? Because it as a subject matter is an inevitability. It is the ultimate. People will run out of new things to talk about, so they have to do the cut-up theory. They have to cut up all these things and then rearrange them to trick you into thinking that it's something brand new, when it's not. It's the same thing you have always had. It is the same thing that exists all over the place all of the time. It's the same story over and over and over. So it's not just that there is a Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it, being that universe, is connected to ours, and ours is connected to DC's, and DC's is connected to Pixar, and Pixar's is connected to, you know, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just naming things that I like, that I think are cool. It's all the same story. You can connect anything, any story, to any other story, and it will add up, and it will line up, and it will fit perfectly, because it has all been cut up and rearranged. All right, that's enough of that. Whew. All right. What else? This magic in Marvel, chaos magic, this magic can manipulate, warp, and reconstruct the fabric of existence and reality to the user's very whim and bring about total destruction of the cosmos. So this field, for example, that you thought may have been an apple orchard, she removes the spell. It's enchanted right now. It's a spell. It's not really a beautiful garden. It's actually been laid waste to, and that's where she really lives. So you can see that the sky turns this sort of dusty, post-apocalyptic orange, reddish spectrum, right? Because that's what she represents. She represents her magic, that red, crimson, magenta kind of plasma color. That's what she represents. She represents that type of destructive force, which is also a creative force too, right? I'm not going to take sides, but typically it's seen as being evil and bad. So she removes the spell. You can see reality for what it is. Doctor Strange kind of had a feeling about it. And then they check out this magic book. So remember how at the beginning they're looking for like this good book, that the book at the beginning, the Book of Vishanti, it will give the person reading it whatever tool they need to defeat whatever evil they face. That's its power. Now, its antithesis, or its equal on the other side, is this Book of Evil. Now, this reminds me of when I was playing Skyrim. I know not everyone plays that, but there's also these magic books called black books, and you open them up, and there's all these like tentacle monsters all over the place in this other world that it takes you to. That's what that reminded me of. So he says it's called the dark hold, right? It takes a dark hold on whoever reads it, okay? On whoever learns what it has to share with us. Now, I believe that these books are symbolic of actual energies and places in our world, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. She says that the dark hold only showed me the truth, right? Everyone's good in their own eyes. Everyone has good intentions, and they feel like it justifies their actions. Everything, which means it's selfish, basically. Everything I lost can be mine again. So she's, wearing little typical devil horns, sort of has like this sort of devil character that she plays called the Scarlet Witch, and she's scarlet because of the color of the plasma and stuff that she represents. She is a mother, and the mother has lost her children, and the mother seeks to be with her children. So let me just cut right to the chase. There's plasma, scarlet plasma, red plasma, around our world right now as the mother figure to all the little tiny leftover pieces of scarlet plasma that got trapped in here the last time. And it wants to reunite. It wants to be with its children. So there are people in this world who are the children of the mother spider, grandmother spider, whatever you want to call it, the plasma that comes down from the sky. And they resonate with that same energetic signature. There are those of us who have a fragment of the blue beam spirit within us, from within the earth, and we resonate with that type of energy. So he asked her, what do you want with America? Right? Like they're just straight up talking about the United States, basically. What do you want with America? Or what do you want with immortality, I should say too. But what do you want with America, right? America, we see that as like modern day Babylon, etc. It's America's falling to pieces. I think we can all pretty much see that. I see that all the time. That's my perspective. It's only a matter of time. He's like, what do you want with America? Right? There is a dark force. There is a bad, evil energy that is amping up and revving up right now. And what does it want to do? It wants to unite. It wants to bring together. It wants to make everything on a part of itself. It wants to incorporate everything into itself, basically. And when you're a bad energy, that means you want everything to be bad. What do you want with the multiverse? Well, this girl, the Scarlet Witch, wants the multiverse because that plasma is everywhere out there. Okay? It has a job that it's doing that is a higher level than many of us can even comprehend or understand because we're very bipolar in this world. She says, I'm going to leave this reality. Now we're talking about leaving Earth, okay? When they say this reality, they're talking about their Earth, whatever Earth they're in, because it's a closed system. It's not like they can just leave whenever they want to or whatever, because many of the times it's the same or similar rules. So these are the devils in charge of our world right now. They want to leave. They're getting ready to leave. They're packing their bags. They're building spaceships. They're getting ready to go, okay? And they show it to us all the time. She says she wants to be with her children. All right, so now she's going to attack this Kung Fu palace where the priest guys live. And he says that she is a being of unfathomable magic. She can rewrite reality as she chooses. He's talking about the plasma. And is prophesied to either rule or annihilate the cosmos. She took over a whole town using her mind. Now, this is where the TV show WandaVision comes into play. From my understanding, I did some research on it. Wanda, the witch, the Scarlet Witch, right? She doesn't want all of the drama, essentially. And I'm going to paraphrase, and I might get some wrong, but bear with me. There's a whole show called WandaVision, where basically she has everyone in this town under a mind control spell. And they all sort of reenact, some of her favorite memories growing up, which was television shows from when she was younger. So she associates those old TV shows with happy feelings and stuff and family times and stuff. And that's what she wants. She wants to just be a family. She wants to forget about all of the crazy crime fighting and Avengers and good and evil. And she just wants to laugh with her kids and her husband, Vision. It's called WandaVision because it's Wanda and Vision, but it's also Wanda's vision of escaping reality, basically. It's really interesting. she could enslave the entire multiverse. So she has the ability to mind control, okay, or to government. She has the ability to govern your mind, to control your mind. And the plasma that comes down into this world possesses people. Right now, people are becoming possessed because the energy is becoming so overly amplified as it seeks to meet itself, because the energy above is very amplified, right? When that energy comes down inside of our world during the polarity shift and the depressurization event, man, people become plasma possessed or plasma amplified, spirit amplified, right? So if you have any kind of darkness inside, it's going to come out. It's going to shine brightly. You can't hide it, right? If you have goodness inside, it's going to shine. You're going to be an amazing person. Anyways, let's move on. They show this dude. He's not really a part of this movie. Like, there's no reason that they needed to have a Minotaur dude in the movie, a green one. This is just weird. I wanted to take a picture because nowhere does it even describe why he's in this movie, why he's on this particular Earth or this version of Earth. But I will tell you, it's because they feature talking animals all throughout our fiction, all throughout our fantasies, everywhere, all over the place, because there's a part of us that it's deep ingrained within us collectively across the world that we know animals can talk. We know animals. We are not better than them. We're not more advanced than them. They are just different than we are. They can communicate, but we have lost the ability to communicate. So, anyhow, animals are very cool, and it will happen one day that we will be able to understand the animals once again like we used to. And when that happens, your mind will be blown because they'll have very similar stories. Animals have their own superheroes. Animals have their own supervillains. Animals have their own drama and their own stuff that's happening that's very similar to ours. All right, so the Crimson Witch is coming in, Scarlet Witch, whatever her name is. She's coming in, and there's all this fog that rolls in, all these clouds that engulf this little city. This little city is the microcosmic equivalent to our entire world in this particular scene. This is our world. When the plasma makes its appearance and tries to get into our world, there is a cloud, okay? Or the Lord comes within a cloud. It's described in different ways, but there is a cloud. It is the depressurization symbolically of the expanding of the sky itself, expanding and turning into fog and mist and stuff like that. So that's where she makes her appearance. She's right there in the middle of it. All the people down here hold up their energies. They don't want the plasma to get into their little construct, right? So they all shoot up and they create this force field outside of their little world, keeping the plasma lady, the Scarlet Witch, out. Now you can see that they're holding up these beams of light. I spoke about this. There's an ancient Native American story that talks about how the sky was getting too low. And so in order to keep the sky from falling down onto the earth, the wise people had the people of the world hold up poles or beams, you could say, hold up poles and prop up the sky and push it higher and higher to push it away from us to where it is today. That's what I was reminded of when I saw these people. It looks like they're trying to hold up the sky, basically. All right, so there's this dome, this magic force field keeping out the Scarlet Witch, the plasma lady, basically. She's trying to get in. Plasma streams are all over the place, trying to wrap around, trying to find a weak spot. You can see it makes like a dome around their city, right? So they're showing us our world on the microcosmic scale. Then she stops and she's like, wait a minute, I don't need to burst my way in there. What am I doing? My energy is already in there. So all she does is focus on it. And then Doctor Strange is realizing what's going on. He's like, oh, she's trying to get into their heads, right? She's searching for similar frequencies, similar energetic frequencies that she can manipulate, because ultimately that's an extension of her. So ultimately she's already inside. If there's even a trace of her in there, all she has to do is find it. So they say, sorcerers, fortify your minds. This is us. This is the world we live in today. This is the plasma waiting outside. This is the movies telling you, fortify your mind. Or to use a biblical reference, be sober-minded. Be strong of your mind. Be focused in your mind, right? Fortify your mind. Think and focus on and meditate on things that are pure and wholesome. and happy. It's a happy thought, basically. If you don't want to get plasma possessed, like this dude's about to right here, right? He's got some bad thought on his mind right now, and she's about to focus in on it. You need a happy thought, right? The happy thought, like from Peter Pan, I got to stand up. Jeez. Man. All right. The happy thought is it counterbalances the negativity. Okay. So whatever skeletons you might have in your closet, in order to work those out, you need to think about the happy thoughts. Your reality is based on your beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? What are your fears and stuff like that? Facing your fears is the crux of this movie. So we need a happy thought. We need something that is going to promote and balance out the negativity so that we become neutral once again. All right. Let's see. Let's keep on going. Okay. I had to stand up off the chair because I've been sitting down all day. All right. So she's not really there. She's whispering into this guy's mind. She's plasma possessing him. He freaks out. He gets too scared. He runs away. And now they are all weaker because they lost the one, right? The one is very important, right? This is us. This is how the world that we live in, this is how they get control of us. They just look for the weak one. They look for somebody who is weak spiritually. They look for somebody who is afraid and has fear. They exploit the fear so that they drop their guard spell, and then the whole force field comes tumbling down, and then everyone else starts to panic and everyone else starts to run. And that's what she does. And she's standing outside of the little dome structure that she's created. There's a hole in it now because people are starting to run away and panic because the guy knocked them all down and stuff. The plasma rushes in through that hole in the dome. She's slinging plasma all over the place. All right, then she faces Doctor Strange, who says, if you want to get the girl, you're going to have to go through me, right? He doesn't run away. He's the type to just stand up and say, hey, we don't tolerate bullies. And then he just starts to disappear and do some crazy, trippy Doctor Strange, like, you know where they do that fractal style, where everything becomes very fractal and moving around and stuff? So he does that to her. Everything's becoming all fractal and twirling around mechanically and stuff. And then she's presented with mirrors. What he does is he creates a maze of mirrors and tries to trap her inside of a maze of mirrors. This is our world. That plasma that has come into and broken through that dome barrier, when that dome barrier goes back up, it becomes trapped. That dome barrier is seen as being the glass ceiling, or the mirror that is a portal to other places. Wonderland and such. So she's standing in front of the mirror. There's all this weird music and stuff. She's looking around at all the different versions of herself. She's forced to come face to face with herself, basically, right? To acknowledge what she's doing, to step outside of the ends justify the means. So there's all these spikes that shoot out of the mirrors. It creates like a little room of mirrors. She tries to shoot her plasma and do all her plasma magic, but it just bounces off and it ends up hurting her. Her own magic ends up basically becoming a danger to her because she's trapped inside of this new box, this new mirror box. So all the plasma is ricocheting around. She doesn't know what to do. But then she thinks about it, right? And she realizes that she can get out. So you see at the bottom it says distorted screaming. There's this eerie distorted screaming. For some reason they have the Scarlet Witch screaming a bunch. Banshees do that. And a banshee is electromagnetic phenomenon, plasma, that moves at incredible rates of speed and has such a high electric charge that it creates sound. And sound is a key factor to this movie as well, but not just to the movie, to our reality. Our world is made out of sound. Everything is a song. Everything is a vibration. So they have her screaming because she's supposed to represent the plasma, which screams, which makes crying sounds and stuff. So she reaches towards the mirror and she goes through the mirror. This is how you can travel from one realm to another, right? So instead of just seeing the mirror as being some solid object that she can't pass, she goes through it. And he says reflections. So she's able to get out of that spot, that magic mirror place, through the reflections. Her reflection pops up through the water there as an eyeball. So this is the all-seeing eye in the reflection of the dome or the sky itself, right? This is just one eyeball in the reflection of the water. The water's reflection is the waters above us. And then she has this reflection in this metal object, this round metal object. Looks like a sun disk or something. She shoots her hand out of it. Her fingers are coming out. Her body's all gnarly, like she's the girl from The Ring or something, you know, like all distorted and stuff. That's because she is plasma. And plasma distorts. Plasma takes weird shapes. It doesn't have to stay in a human shape or whatever. It's a shapeshifter. So she comes out of this thing, fixes herself up. She's good to go. She says, "I'm not a monster, Stephen." She refers to Doctor Strange as Stephen. Matter of fact, everybody does. I think it's hilarious. He seems to accept it. She's like, "I'm not a monster. I'm a mother." This is the Sky Mother. This is the mother, space mother, whatever you want to call it, grandmother spider for the Native Americans, spider mother to others. She wants to be with her children. He says, "Wanda, you have no children," right? Wanda, you don't have any children. Her children don't exist. But he's talking about your children in this reality. They don't exist, right? So if we compare that to the world that we live in today, right? He's saying that under those conditions that they live in the superhero age, there are very few of her children. There are very few with the energetic signature of evil or selfishness or whatever it may be. It's the golden age of the superheroes and the gods and, you know what I mean, all that fun stuff. So he's like, your children don't exist. But she knows that they do because she can sense them. She says, "Oh, but they do. In every other universe." So that's half, right? Just like Thanos, whatever, snapped and got rid of half of the people or whatever because half of the worlds went through all of their plasma apocalypses and had their red sky or their blue sky or whatever. Dang, man. Now I gotta sit down. It's the same thing, basically. Every other universe. So when we go through our next apocalyptic cycle, our sky will go from blue to red, right? The world across from us, they'll go from red to blue. Everything switches, and there's like a 50-50 effect. So every other universe, her children are there. She says, "Because I dream of them." Now, this is going to get into dream walking, which is really interesting. If dreams, according to the movie, are glimpses into your other multiversal selves, and those possibilities that are happening, or actualities, I should say, she says she dreams of them. Interesting. So they're connecting the plasma to, they're making the plasma like it's a conduit or a hallway between realities, between your reality here and your other reality out there. This is the connector, the mother. Interesting. All right, so then she busts out her magic and she creates a little like model of the multiverses, basically. To me, I don't know if you guys can see it, but to me, it looks like the synapses inside of a brain. That's all I see. And that's what I see when I look out there, or whenever I imagine what is out there beyond the sky, is like a space brain, which is commonly called it, because it's so big. And it's very hard for most people to grasp, to even like, to try to put some sort of a figure to it, you know? So oftentimes it is referred to as it, simply put. Oh, let's see what else we got here. All right, so Doctor Strange is checking out the little, he gets little previews into these other realities, right? So he's looking, he sees all these kids. These are all her kids, okay? Her kids are not these two kids in the movies. They are humans. They are people. They are beings and entities that she has possessed. They are pieces of herself. She's trying to find herself, essentially. So ask yourself, are you trying to find yourself? Or have you already? All right, so we're looking at her missing her kids. Ultimately, she's looking at all the other versions of her as children, right? And she's coveting that. She's not thinking about the other multiversal herself, right? She's thinking about her own avatar in the body that she's in Earth number, whatever that she's in. She doesn't care about her own self, her own other selves, her own extensions. She wants to go get rid of those other selves and take what they have, instead of being happy with what she has. And she's pretty powerful too. She could be pretty content. She says, the same dream every night and every morning. She makes the red go away. You see that? So she has the same dream every night, shows you all the red, and then the red goes away, and she says, and every morning, the same nightmare. So when the red goes away, that is her nighttime. That is her playtime. That is her dream world where she dream walks. When that red sky goes away and that magic world goes away, that feminine energy, representative of her, goes away. And she says it's the same nightmare. For her, waking up to this world in this male dominant energy is a nightmare. Every day, waking up to quote unquote reality is a nightmare. And going to sleep and dreaming is escaping all of this crazy hectic world. So I can actually relate to that one. All right, so just like when we learned about Janus and Jambres in the Old Testament, they threw out their rods and they became snakes, etc. In the same way, Doctor Strange and his buddy also throw out these snakes on the floor, and they're attacking the Scarlet Witch, who uses her plasma/snake magic to destroy theirs, basically. So they're kind of reenacting what happened between the Moses and the Pharaoh's magicians. So she busts out her magic, which is super powerful, destroys those other snakes, and she wraps up America, the girl named America. I know, like we totally forgot about her, right? She wraps her up. That's what she's trying to get, because America has the power to travel the fractalverses, or the fractalverse. So she wraps her up, takes control of her, and she starts trying to take her power so that she can connect and use the power to open up these portals. So she's sucking she's doing this sort of Mortal Kombat Shang Tsung finisher move where she takes the soul. She's trying to rip the soul out of this girl, basically, which will kill her. So she's pulling her soul out, which is this sort of blue beam kind of a soul. So she's one of the Tet, or the blue beamers. She's got that good spirit energy, the good vibe energy coming. And as you see, you can see the light comes out of the eyes too. I believe the time is going to come when light emanates from our eyes once again, right? Right now, we get little glimpses of it, but the spirit will be so strong in the days to come that you will see it in the eyes. Or behind the eyes, I should say. All right, so this portal opens up, turns into the star. It's a star portal. It's a star gate. It's literally shaped. It's actually shaped like a star. And in between, there's actually a bunch of stars. There's an infinite number of them. And in between each star is a universe. Okay, and that's why it is the multiverse, right? So there's infinite number of Earths, infinite numbers of you, of me, out there doing whatever. All right, so America's stuck in the middle of the star. Doctor Strange starts to scream, jumps in, tries to save her. He accidentally pushes him and her through this star portal, and they're about to travel through various realities, okay, various universes. So the first one that they travel through has these huge heads that all have blue glowing eyes. They're like statues, basically. They don't tell a lot about any of these universes, okay? These are literally like half-second shots that I took. So in this one, they're out there in what looks like space, and you can sort of see an example of the plasma conduits, or the plasma roads, or the rainbow roads, or whatever you want to call them, that lead from one hub to another, or from one Earth or one realm to another. They go through one that's all crystals, crystalline universe. There's this one with the insects. This one actually has bees. This looks like a bee world. There's a lot of bee symbolism that I've covered and talked about quite frequently. They're the holy bees, they're the sacred bees, and they leave their sacred byproduct of sacred honey as well, which is just plasmic residue. There's one where there's water everywhere, so they're underwater. That's when the world was flooded. So they're showing you all stuff that's not like, this is not like, oh, these are wild, crazy places. These are real events that have happened to this world, right? Ultimately, whatever has happened out there will happen here too. Okay, it all happens. It's just it happens to varying degrees. It all happens from slightly different angles each time, so that we can get it right, so that we can perfect it essentially. So our world has been flooded, for example. And then they go to this slow motion world, which is really interesting because everything is in slow motion, which means time slows down, which means whoever lives in this world lives longer, essentially, right? Because everything is way slowed down. Time is slowed down. It's a time dilation, which happens here too. Right now, our time is sped up. Okay. Right now, we're on fast forward. Right now, we're fast paced. Right now, everything's coming right at us. We don't live for very long. Okay. We live tiny little microscopic lifespans, which is ridiculous. Puh. I don't like it. In comparison to how long we used to live for. Imagine how much slower time would kind of seem to be in comparison. Comparatively speaking, time is flying right now. Now, every time that they go through one of these realities, they break through glass, which is interesting to me too, right? Because they have this is how you travel realities. You have to break through the glass of each world, of each reality that you go through. This one looks like they're sort of inside of a computer, which was really interesting to me. Looks like little computer parts inside there, and that's the computer reality, or the simulation world, or whatnot. This one has dinosaurs or Fantazoids, etc. Whenever the otherworldly monsters come down, and the world is a huge tropical paradise. This one, they're all sort of cartoons. This is a reality. We take the truth and we draw it down in comic books and we write cartoons and stuff like that. And it's real. It doesn't make it less real. Just because somebody painted it bright colors and stuff does not mean it makes it less real. It's very real. But it takes a special energy signature to see that. And it's okay if you don't. Ultimately, you're going to see a reality on some level, right? And all roads lead to Oz, I guess. This is the one where they're all made out of little pieces, little puzzle pieces, which I thought was pretty cool. And they're sort of like barely holding on together with their little puzzle piece face. This is one where it's sort of like 1930s detective style comic book. There's a huge Zeppelin in the background, etc. This is a reality that we've been through, even the color tones. Okay, so even the color tones, right now we're used to the color tones that we have, where we have this huge spectrum of color. It didn't always used to be that way. There used to be various shades of gray, essentially, and red and other colors, and those had to sprout into the plethora of different colors that we have today. All right, so the Stargate opens back up, and they finally land in this alternate reality that they have, where everything's overgrown and beautiful. Looks like nature's sort of taken over, right? They used to have this building where it had graffiti on it and everything in the other picture that I showed you. And she's like, I'm surprised you didn't puke, because they just went through all those realities, right? He's like, it's not my first weird trip, kid. Right? Remember when he got touched by the bald chick and he was like, whoa, for the first time? So that's kind of what he's referring to, even though he does throw up after that. Excuse me. The universe doesn't have a version of her. That's something that's interesting, right? There are no alternate versions. She is the same. She is the version in whatever universe that she visits, whatever one that she goes to. But there are no alternate versions of America wherever she goes. She remains unchanged, basically, which is really interesting too. None of the universes have her, except for wherever she happens to be, right? And she does not dream. This is interesting too. She says, I never dream, right? Because if you dream, according to the movie, you're getting a glimpse into your other lives. She doesn't have an other life because she is a source life, okay? The other lives are branches. So if you have other lives, you're a branch, basically. You're a branch off of the main thing, which doesn't make you less at all. It just means you're a branch. You got to recognize what you are. She's not a branch. She is the root. So they're at the stopwalk, right? And the light turns green, and he gets ready to go across the street. He almost gets hit by a car, and she's like, what are you doing? You don't go on green, you go on red. He's like, we go on red? Now check this out. This seems insignificant in the movie. It's actually really important. She says, rule number 1 in multiversal travel, you don't know anything. So first of all, if you want to venture out into Wonderland and check out the Upside Down and travel and explore the fractalverse, let go of your preconceived notions, beliefs, and ideas. Be open-minded and be a learner. Somebody that watches carefully and is cautious and figures out what the rules are to the new reality that you enter into, right? You don't know anything. you might know something about this reality, but other realities, entirely different rule sets. So check this out. Let's take this reality, for example. Now, imagine, like I talked about, the different color spectrums that exist in different realities or different times in different atmospheric conditions. Our sky will turn red. Like I was talking about, it goes from blue to red. It shifts into the red spectrum. If you look at this green light, if we had the same setup and the light turned green and the sky and all of the light coming from the sky was red, you could do a quick Google search to ask what color a green object appears under a red light. The answer is black. So imagine, you got to imagine, right? You're in a different world. Imagine that their world is all red. All the light is red. I mean, obviously they're showing you that it's regular light like how we have, but put that aside and imagine that they couldn't show you red light for whatever reason. And that this is how it looks to the natives there. To them, like this is their version of color. To them, this is normal. So to them, this is the movie's way of showing you what normal looks like on this world, basically. It's because you need to see it in color to perceive it as being normal. Otherwise, you would see it as being abnormal. Anyways, imagine that this is all red. That green light would be black. Black would mean stop. Black would mean bad. Black would mean you can't see what it is. It's a lack. So that would mean don't cross. Danger, right? But under the red light of a red world, this would be a bright white. This would be a bright color or a bright red or whatever color it is, right? It would be bright and it would signify it's all good. It's okay. Here's some light. Go ahead and cross because you have light now, right? So all of a sudden, when you just switch your frame of mind and you shift, these strange and foreign concepts that are fantastic and strange and weird make more sense. And then she says, rule number 2, find food. And she's got some pizza balls or something right there. So find food. Whenever you're traveling the fractalverse, dude, you got to eat. One of the first things you need to do is find food, right? Especially if you're going through your apocalypses or whatever. Now, that's not always going to be true. Okay, there might be worlds in which you don't need to eat, but that's just her 2 cents. He's like, where'd you get food anyway? You don't have money. She's like, it was free. And then she says, food's free in most universes, actually. It's kind of weird. You guys have to pay for it, right? Like I say this all the time. There's free food everywhere. It grows out of the ground. It's called plants. Like you could eat it. I mean, not all of them, obviously. There's poisonous plants. There's plants that are not good for you or not nutritious. But there are many, 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 many plants out there that you could eat. You don't have to be homeless saying I need money so that I can go buy food or whatever. Food's free. Plant it. We should be teaching our children how to plant little seeds in the ground to make an unlimited, never-ending supply of food. And it's free. In most universes she has visited, she's saying like that's basically how it works. This concept of like one person just declaring they own it all, you can't touch it, you can't grow it, you can't do anything, and you have to buy it from me. Sounds like evil. All right, so she's reliving one of these memories. When she first opened up a portal, there was a bee that landed on her hand. I took a picture of this because it reminded me of Horton Hears a Who and that flower that Horton picks, basically. But the bee lands on her hand, stings her. She freaks out, gets a surge of magic, and opens up a portal where her parents get sucked into the portal and out into some alternate reality. This is basically her version of her plasma apocalypse, her first one. Now, in this reality that they're in, this is not our Earth. This is not the Doctor Strange that we're used to, or the world of Doctor Strange that we're used to. In this world, he's dead. So, our Doctor Strange has visited some other alternate Earth where their Doctor Strange died fighting Thanos. It says, Dr. Stephen Strange gave his life defeating Thanos. We express eternal gratitude to Earth's mightiest hero. Okay, so they've made this hero out of Doctor Strange. So he goes to his little hideout, or where it would be, and he meets this other dude that totally betrayed him in the first movie, who I guess is his buddy in this universe. And he says, our Wanda has the ability to conjure demons and monsters. Now remember, Wanda is one and the same with the red plasma outside of our world. The red plasma brings along with it demons and monsters, being forms of electromagnetics that come down from above that take various forms, and monsters being Fantazoids. to attack America in other universes. Now, why do they keep talking about America being attacked, right? Well, America has one of the strongest energy signatures that I sense in the world, right? All of the people that live here, there's a huge energy signature here in this particular area, and this particular area will draw the most attention to a similar signature, I'll say. He says there's a spell contained within those pages. They're looking for the Darkhold book, and the spell is corrosive to the soul. It's called dream walking. Now, dream walking, he says that a sorcerer projects their own consciousness from their universe into another. From their universe into another, possessing the body of an alternate self. So think about that. There is an alternate world out there, according to Marvel, where there may be a version of you that, or somebody that is powerful enough to dream walk, to take hold of that soul string and to write it back through telepathy, through astral projection, basically, and to take they shift their point of focus. Right now, you are a point of focus, okay? I am a point of focus. I have a point of focus. But this is just a point of focus that I have called JayDreamerZ, and I'm doing a live stream on YouTube and talking to many people, right? This is one of my points of focus. I can redirect that focus and refocus, going back up that soul string into my other selves. And basically, that's the point where many people in our world, you've heard stories, snap out of it. They become totally different people, and they just wake up and they speak different languages, and they have different memories and stuff like that. Anyways, that's a sleep. What do they call them? A dream walker, not a sleepwalker, a dream walker. So she's going to do that as well. The Scarlet Witch is going to possess her own self. She's going to rechange her focus, refocus, so that she can take her intentions that she has in one point of focus and go and pollute the other ones, which is not the way it's supposed to be. We're different for good reason. We're different for a purpose, right? But that doesn't mean that we can't do it, right? So she possesses the body of her alternate self. They may puppeteer this unholy doppelganger, he goes on to say. And a doppelganger is a copy, right? I totally believe in doppelgangers and copies. Like there are copies of me out there. People have seen JayDreamerZ. They're like, dude, I saw someone that looks exactly like you, I swear. Or I know someone that's exactly like, or you totally remind me of, like, you're an exact replica of, like, my best friend from high school, or something like that. You've experienced that. Many of you have, right? There are doppelgangers. It's just code. It's just a physical form. That's all. But in this movie, we're getting deeper than the physical form. We're getting to the root of it, which is the soul and the spirit. And what does that look like? It's far more than just individual. So the Scarlet Witch goes into a trance. She's flying through the multiverse, trying to figure out which one they're in so that she can go possess that version of herself, which might be evil or might be good, and she can take control. So she possesses her, which is herself, which is a good version of herself, where she's just a mom or whatever. She's got this guy locked up, and she wants to know where the Darkhold was, where she can get a copy of it. And he's like, well, the version you saw was just a copy of the Darkhold. The legend speaks of a mountain. So she wants to find the place where there's this evil dark tome or book of spellcraft. And he says the legend speaks of a mountain. I'm listening. With the wretched spells that you seek carved into its walls. So somewhere out there, these spells, which are energetic signatures, right? Spells are forms that give instruction. They're programs, essentially, right? Somewhere out there, somewhere in here, in our world, is a mountain that has information that is carved into its walls that a wizard put there from a long time ago. Or, I'm sorry, maybe not even a wizard, a god, I guess, put there from a long time ago. Now, to me, this sounds a lot like the, stories of Moses and the tablets, or the emerald tablets, or the tablet of destinies, stuff like that. He says it's there where the dark hold was transcribed. Now, I believe that there are two places like this on Earth. They are the anode and the cathode. There are the positive mountain and the negative mountain. And in between them, there is an arc that creates, a balance. But those are the two holy mountains, right? One black, one white, one good, one bad. One makes salt water, one makes fresh water, etc. And it's called Mount Wundagore. Wundagore. What's Wundagore? Why'd they choose to name it that? Wunder is the same as Wanda, which means rod, right? A rod, a switch. Also, by extension, a wanderer, twisting, turning, stuff like that, right? Wundagore. Agore, like agoraphobia, means agoraphobia means a fear of wide open places. Or agore means wide open. It means open, basically, right? So the mountain of the open mountain of twisting, you could interpret that as. No one has survived the journey, though. So they need to get to this mystical, legendary mountain, and no one has survived the journey. Now, we go back to another universe. She says, this scientist chick says, our universe is number 838. So somewhere out there, this is the reality that there are multiverses. Is public knowledge, or at least it's semi-public knowledge, where they have named all of the different multiverses and they understand that there's differences between them. She says, we've designated yours as 616. So that would be ours, just so you know. Okay, so all the Marvel stuff that we're familiar with that's typical, that happens, I believe, in Earth number 616, which is ours. Now, his buddy comes in with some Ultron beasties, and he's like, the Illuminati will see you now, Doctor Strange. So now Doctor Strange is going to face the Illuminati out of left field. They were not introduced or anything. It's all of a sudden like, you're going to see the Illuminati. So they make him say the Illumawadi like it's a joke. I get it. I understand why that could be funny. But it didn't strike me personally as being super funny. He says the Illumawadi. First of all, you're Doctor Strange. You're supposed to be well versed in strange arcane words and spells and spellcraft and letters and symbols and stuff. I don't see Doctor Strange going the Illumawadi. You know what I mean? That's like that's like the lower version of Doctor Strange. What they're doing is they're trying to make a joke out of it. Out of the very real organization called the Illuminati, or the Illuminated Ones, the ones who understand the secret knowledge that I just totally just share with you guys. Not that I know all of it or anything. I'm just saying, like, they don't like to share it. They have rules about that. But I have not agreed to those rules, so I get to share whatever I want to. All right, so anyways, this guy goes with the Scarlet Witch. They have to get to that mountain. They come to some frozen wasteland, right? Trying to get to this secret legendary mountain. So you have to pass through a cold place or a cold region to get to this mountain. That the same thing applies here in our world. To get to our legendary mountain, you have to go through a cold area. All right, so Wong goes on and he says, eons ago, the first demon, Chthon. Now, the first demon, Chthon, okay, I'm listening, carved his dark magic into this tomb. So this building, they say, is a tomb, a house of the dead, that this demon, Chthon, carved his dark magic. You can see the all-seeing eye symbolism right there. These same spells were later transcribed or written down into an actual book called the Darkhold. Now, let's talk about Chthon. They just mention him in passing, right? But Chthon, it says here, is akin to, in Gnosticism, the demiurge, the sentient life force of Earth's biosphere, seeded the young planet with its essence, creating a race of elder gods, the foremost of which were Chthon, right? So Chthon is the exact same as Cthulhu, essentially. That's why it sounds like that, right? It's just the suffixes are different. Okay, so this basically Cthulhu-type character created this tomb place or the magic spells that are written on this evil mountain or whatever. So let's take another look at Chthon, and I'm not just making up that it's related to Cthulhu. It says here, Chthon wrote the Darkhold, inscribing all of his arcane knowledge on scrolls made from indestructible parchment and left them behind to serve as a physical link between Earth and his new home should he ever choose to return. This is the same story as Jesus. This is the same story as Hermes Trismegistus. This is the same stories as Thoth. All of these God savior type figures that wrote down or told people like, I'm going to write down on indestructible material my commands, my messages, my information. Sometimes people were told, write this down before the world is destroyed so that you guys can preserve some stuff, right? And then they always promise, I'm going to come back, right? It was theorized by the logomancer. That's somebody who manipulates words or researches words and stuff, or loves words. The logomancer, that the Darkhold was originated from etchings that were carved on the walls of the city of Relaya by ancient and hideous things called the Great Old Ones, among which Chthon was allegedly the greatest, despite being usually recognized as an elder god. What does that mean in non-nerd? Okay, let me break it down. Basically, there's this tentacle monster called Cthulhu that some of you may have seen imagery of, right? Cthulhu is the sleeping god who sleeps above the waters above us and occasionally puts his little plasma tentacles down into our world, and they break off into smaller versions of him and stuff. And that is Cthulhu, some thing out there that people don't know what it is, and it's some sleeping elder god monster type thing. That's exactly what they're giving reference to and paying homage to, right? That's what they do in these comic books and movies and stuff. They talk about real, arcane, esoteric, occult knowledge that was once common knowledge. It was once something that people understood worldwide and accepted. Anyways, so she says she realizes this is not a tomb. She sees a carving of herself on the wall. She says it's a throne. So they're in a throne. They're in some place where somebody is made to sit, okay? Now, she is making herself akin to a god. It is the throne of God. The throne of God is at the top of the world. It's always at the top of the world, or the center, I should say, of the world. And that's appropriate. That's where God should be, is at the center, basically, right? So she is like one side of God, which is the bad side, and then there's a good side, which is the other book, where the blue book is. Now, let's go back to the Illuminati. Doctor Strange gets called into this little impromptu meeting of the Illuminati. And he walks in and he sees there's this multiverse version of Captain America, but it's a chick. And instead of the American star and stuff, they have the Great Britain star or double cross or whatever, right? So here's how there's all these other possible roads that these other superheroes went down. Some of them led to becoming members of the Illuminati. Here we've got Mr. Fantastic. If you forget his superpower, he can stretch like a rubber band. I'm not super impressed, so I don't know how. I mean, he's supposed to be very smart, so that's how he made the Illuminati or whatever. He's very genius, right? But he can stretch, and that's a very real possibility of actual skin stretching beyond its limits and stuff, or beyond its current limits. That comes from the plasma as well, creating loose ionic bonds and stuff. Anyways, he says the larger the footprint that you leave behind, and they're talking to us, right? He's not just talking to Doctor Strange. The larger footprint that you leave behind, the greater the risk for an incursion. Now, he says an incursion is when the boundary between two universes erodes. So there is a boundary between our universe, which I would limit to saying our realm, our world that we live in here. This is our universe inside of this realm. That boundary goes down, and it mixes stuff from inside this world mixes with stuff from another world, because stuff gets blown around and tossed around and mixed up. It's when two worlds collide. And it says they collide. Two worlds collide. Destroying one or both entirely. This chick version of Captain America says your alternate self created the Illuminati. Your alternate self created the Illuminati. Think about that too. To make difficult decisions that no one else could. Now, this is interesting because this gets into their intentions. They believe that their intentions are just and righteous because that's their own self-intent, which is still selfish. Even though they're saying that we're doing this for the greater good of all or whatever, it's still selfish when you boil it down. But it's not the Scarlet Witch that we fear. from our experience, the greatest danger to the multiverse, it turns out, is Doctor Strange. Hey, Donnie Skylark just subscribed. Welcome. I hope you guys are having a good time in the chat. All right, let's keep going. So Doctor Strange, it turns out, is the biggest threat to the multiverse. We'll find out why. And then you hear someone else saying, we should tell him the truth. Some mysterious voice. We should tell him the truth. Professor X rides on in, right? Charles Xavier. And he says, that's not how our Strange died. He didn't die fighting Thanos. So they take you back into this little recap. They're back on Thanos's planet where you can see stuff that looks exactly like the monster they killed earlier with the tentacles and the one eye symbolism right in the middle. Thanos is all representative of all of that. So Doctor Strange in that universe took the power to be able to like dreamwalk, and he became a dreamwalker. But when he became a dreamwalker, when he started possessing his other selves and other universes, there was a taint. There was a piece of that red plasma, that red bad negative energy that comes with that, because he has to use that, right? So because he was tainted by that, because he had a little piece of bad in him, all his, friends in the Illuminati were like, you got to die, bro. Like you're dangerous. We don't want you to get out of control. So this guy, a really lame superhero power, I don't know. He basically talks and his vibrations obliterate things, right? Which is real. That's a real thing. Vibrations can obliterate things, but that's his power. I'm like, okay. Really cheesy. He's got a tuning fork in his forehead. It's crazy. So they said, we knew what our Doctor Strange was capable of, so we killed him. Every Doctor Strange is capable of turning on us. Every Doctor Strange is capable of misusing their power. So instead of allowing the Doctor Strange to prove himself and to choose good this time, they just decided to cut off Doctor Strange altogether. And now they're deciding what to do with this one that they have, right? But suddenly their alarms go off and the Scarlet Witch is downstairs fighting everybody. All of the Illuminati members run off except for Professor X, who says, Steven, like everyone's gone. And all of a sudden Professor X is like, hey bro, check this out. Should you manage to escape this chamber, you must guide America Chavez. And then the other guy's like, what the hell are you doing? What are you talking about? Professor X, what do you mean if he manages to escape? Why are you telling him that? You know what I mean? And I love what happens now, right? Because I should probably throw this out there. The X-Men are a part of all of the universes, the multiverse, okay? They're definitely a part of Marvel and Disney and all of that stuff. How are they connected? If you watched my video breakdown, the Truth in Movies that I did on, what is that movie called? The Eternals, right? I remembered this time. The Eternals give you the origin story of the X-Men, where they inherited this X chromosome that is a little piece of something inside of us that can be activated so that we get superpowers. They talk about that. So they're in the same universe anyway. He says, save the girl and get the Book of Vishanti. So Professor X is trying to hook him up with some encouraging words saying, hey, get out of here, right? The other guy's like, Charles, we cannot trust him. And he says, I believe that we can. Now, this part made me smile. This is the Professor X that I know and love. He says, I believe that we can. Just because someone stumbles and loses his way doesn't mean that they're lost forever. That is what Professor X represents, okay? Don't give up hope. Just because you have made 1,000,000 mistakes does not mean you're going to make 1,000,001. There's always the opportunity to turn over a new leaf. There's always an opportunity to change your mind, transform yourself, transform your reality, change the entire world by changing what you believe in, right? Your belief is a very strong thing, especially when it comes to believing in yourself. And Professor X believes in him. Sometimes we need people to believe in us. He says, we will see what kind of Doctor Strange you are. You see that? Just because you're Doctor Strange, I'm talking to you, okay? You're Doctor Strange. That does not mean you have to lose and go down the same path that all of the other Doctor Stranges, all of the other multiversal versions of you have done. You don't have to. You are not destined to repeat the same failures. You can, at any time, rise above and change your circumstances by changing your mind. At any time, you are not stuck. You are not delegated to being a failure or a screw up just because you have before. Okay? That is not you. You are brand new every second. So I side with Professor X on this one. All right, now the really cheesy superhero tuning fork guy is he's about to go up against the Scarlet Witch. And they say Wanda Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper of his mouth. So if he makes any noise from his mouth, all those vibrations like obliterate stuff, right? So he's all, like kind of breathing like, I'm going to kill you. She goes, what mouth? I'm sorry, did you know who I am? I can manipulate reality. What mouth? And all of a sudden his mouth, just like Neo on the Matrix, is gone. He doesn't have a mouth, right? So he starts to panic, and ultimately he tries to scream, which blows the plasma into his own skull, and his head bursts and it implodes basically, and he's done. So then she grabs Mr. Fantastic, like twiddles him down into little shreds, right, of ribbons of like rubber or whatever. And this is all stuff that plasma has the capability and the potential of doing. So then she finally gets to where they're keeping America. She's kind of tore up looking right there because she's been fighting everybody. But then she gets to Professor X, who's guarding America, right, with his mind power. And then so she's about to blast him with some plasma, and he's like, no, jumps into her mind through her eyeball. Now, when we go through her eyeball, like we've seen many times, where do we end up? When you go through the eyeball, on the movies at least, and oftentimes on TV, you end up in a white room. Why is that? Because you go through the eye of God and you end up in space, which is really white, not black. Or bright, I should say at the very least. So when he's up there in space, he sees this real Wanda, because remember, this Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, is not really her. She is being possessed by herself from some other reality, right? Something that is not real in her reality is possessing her, which is fear, basically. So Professor X goes in to try to help her out. She's sectioned off. So Wanda, one version of Wanda has partitioned the mind and set up walls to keep that other version of Wanda separate. And this is something real that happens in our world all of the time and in our minds as well. So this is the real Wanda. This is the real Scarlet Witch. And she's meditating, and she's just in this trance, astral projecting herself into the other one. She goes into the mind, grabs Professor X, and snaps his neck. He's done. So she kills Professor X just like that. I was so excited that he made an appearance in the movie, and now he's dead. I'm like, oh man, dang it. I like him. All right, anyways. And Professor X has done the same thing too. So he's no exception. I'm not saying he's a good guy just because he's Professor X. He was going to die once in the comic books and in the cartoon. And so in order to escape death, he literally cast his own soul, his spirit, and astrally projected into somebody who is in a coma and took their life away from them. Like, basically. Anyway, so she gets him. Doctor Strange goes, they're looking for the good book, the book that will give you whatever you need to defeat evil. And it's behind this door. Now look at the shape of the entrance to this door. It's that Tet that I was talking to you guys about on a few of the other live streams that we've done. It's the Tet. It's akin to the number 9. It's akin to the spiral, etc. It's also the image of the center of the world on ancient maps. So Doctor Strange says, open sesame. He's trying to get to the center. Puts his watch or his timepiece into the center, says open sesame, which is the magical words into the magical legendary mountain that holds the cave of wonders, the cave of treasures, etc. And the door opens with all this blue light flooding in from the other side, because he's symbolically taking a journey to Mount Meru, or the middle of the world. The door opens up, and on the other side, you can see this sort of ethereal realm with that blue light surrounded by the 4 columns. Now, the 4 columns symbolize in In some ancient legends, it talks about how the earth had these 4 columns at the center that held up the earth. It wasn't just Atlas, the god, one beam holding it up, but it was many beams. So there's 4 main ones that surround this central figure. You can see the blue beam, the blue book there in the middle. Everything's kind of floating around. There's the columns and stuff. It's very beautiful wherever they are. This is supposed to be space too. So as you can see, it's not like dark or anything. It's very bright and pastel looking, like a vanilla sky. Oh, that's whenever they jump down. You see that? Okay, so check this out. They jump from this door right here, and that's her right there. She's falling all the way down. What is that, like 120 feet or something, right? But they land perfectly safe because, like I said, gravity acts funny under different circumstances. Whatever word you would like to use for that. Anyways, so they get to the middle there. That's where the blue beam is. There's where the 4 columns are. They get to the book, and the Scarlet Witch catches up, grabs America, tries to suck out her soul. The book is being caught on fire. The good book, right? So that the good book is destroyed. Fortunately, it's not really destroyed because it's not really a book, right? It's the vibration. It's the frequency that they're after. All right, so she grabs America. She opens up one of those star portals, and she sucks Doctor Strange into it. So he gets sucked into the multiverse once more and ends up who knows where. And then she opens up a portal to her real self, or this gets confusing, but the Scarlet Witch opens up, the possessed Scarlet Witch, the plasma possessed Scarlet Witch, opens up a portal to the Scarlet Witch who's doing the possessing, throws America into there, and then closes the portal where the other Scarlet Witch who's actually possessing her is meditating, right? Jesus. Anyways, so after the possessed Scarlet Witch does that, she is no longer possessed and she takes off back to her children. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange ends up in this reality where the 2 realities have merged and crashed into each other. As you can see, like the buildings get all weird towards the top. Things look kind of upside down and stuff. And there's this red plasma all over the place, streaking around through the fog. And this is a reality. This is what the world, or at least a cartoonification of it, will look like one day. You can see that there's cars just floating around. There's little spirals of wind all over the place. This is the tempest that we go through. Our world depressurizes. There's a world storm. There's the tempest. There's little tornadoes all over the place. There's streaks of plasma all over the place. And stuff is floating around, right? He said there might be another one of me here. So now he needs some help. So he's looking for himself. He has to find himself to get some help. So he comes to his little hideout with the basketball symbol or whatever that is on it. And inside there's this sort of stairway to heaven. So he ascends the stairway into the sky and he finds himself. But this version of himself is known as Sinister Strange, not Doctor Strange. He's Sinister Strange, and I'll tell you why. If you look outside of his window, you can see that he's facing, he's in the center of the storm. The world storm, the tempest, right? And you're looking up into the sky where everything's getting sucked up into. And he says, wait a minute, you guard the Darkhold in this universe? So that evil dark book of magic, Sinister Strange guards it and he reads it. And he's been trying to figure out how to do all this dream walking stuff. He says the Darkhold exacts a heavy toll on its reader. Then he looks up and he puts his hand up there. That's symbolic because they're just showing you the all-seeing eye symbolism and then the hand of God, right? The plasma fingers or whatever that are synonymous with it. He says, I was looking for a world where things were different. Now, this is where some of us might be able to relate. Where I had Christine. Where I was happy. Haven't you ever done that? Haven't you ever just wondered, like, man, is there a reality out there where I made it? Where I didn't screw up, where I was successful, where I had the, true love and the love of my life and happiness and all that stuff, right? And that's what he's looking for. He feels like he has lost all of that and that it's forever gone, right? So he, just like the Scarlet Witch, is looking for a version of himself that he can steal his own girlfriend from, which is selfish. You ever have that dream where you were falling as if you've been pushed off of a tall building? That was probably me. he says. So basically what he's doing is it's kind of like the movie The One with Jet Li, where Jet Li's like, there's an evil Jet Li and he's out there trying to kill all this multiverse versions of himself so that he can get more powerful. That's exactly what Doctor Strange is doing in this movie. So Doctor Strange is going around dream walking and killing people, pushing them off of tall buildings and stuff. And then all the other versions of you just think that you had some bad dream about falling or whatever, right? It's also a part of plasma apocalypse symbolism where everything floats up into the sky and then people fall or float back down. And you have this sensation of falling too. Many people have similar dreams like that. But Doctor Strange is out there killing the other Doctor Stranges, grows a third eye in the middle of his forehead, which indicates that he's into some esoteric and occult stuff. And he says the dark hold exacts a heavy toll. Basically what he's saying is if you go to that mountain, okay, there's different ones. There's a good mountain and there's a bad mountain. And these mountains are connected to energies that are heavenly and cosmic. There is a good energy and there's a bad energy. If you're at the bad energy mountain, and I'm just, through my own perception filters and interpretations, but if you're at that bad energy mountain and you touch that bad energy, you get possessed with bad energy, right? And it possesses you. It takes a hold of you. The only way it can do that is there has to be a bridge. There has to be some existing bad energy already inside of you. Otherwise, you can put up your shield and it won't affect you. All the more reason to be good. Now, this is epic. This is amazing. This is the coolest part of the movie, where Doctor Strange has a wizard battle with himself. I'm going to take a quick break so that you guys can take a break. And I'm actually going to go grab some more coffee and stuff. You guys can use the bathroom or whatnot. And we're going to get into the most epic wizard battle when we come back. I'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
World stops spinning and you got no place to turn. Yeah. When you grasp for a glimpse and the things that you never learned, yeah. Then you take a little while to remind you of the one you were, and everything will be recalled, yeah, yeah. Dream a little harder, love a little louder, and everything will be recalled, yeah, yeah. Take me back to the time of 85, yeah. Take me back to the time when you were mine, yeah. Dream a little harder, love a little louder. 85, take me back to the time of 85. But I do what I like and I do as I please. Ooh, 'cause I was born in the 90s. But I do what I like and I do as I please. Ooh, 'cause I was born in the 90s. They don't believe I'm okay, but I'm impulsive, I'm not insane. High on life in the night, no anxiety. Well, I agree, life is great, but let me live it my own way. High on life in the night, no anxiety. But I live a lie, insecure, always on my phone. Yeah, I live a lie, don't really know how life was before. When you dream about places where there's no sense of time or space, yeah. You don't need to pull yourself together and make pretense, yeah. Then you take a little while to remind you of the one you were, and everything will be recalled, yeah, yeah. Dream a little harder, love a little louder, and everything will be recalled. Take me back to the time of 85, yeah. Take me back to
you ready? Are you ready to see the most epic? Okay, I don't know if it's the most epic. I mean, there's some pretty sweet wizard battles. Harry Potter's got some good ones. The Sword and the Stone has a classic wizard battle, wizard duel. This one's amazing. I love this one just because of the artistic imagery. Can you guys hear me okay? I just want to make sure. So watch this, okay? So Doctor Strange gets knocked down, lands, like his fingers hit this piano, and all these piano notes, these musical notes on that are written down on the pages, go flying up into the air. Now check this out. This is so cool. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you guys like the website. Right on. I'm going to check that out later tonight too. All right. So what I plan on doing is after all my live streams, like I'm going to keep open, the chat and stuff. I can't watch the chat on my website all the time, but I like to check it just to see. There's been a couple of people who have already jumped into the tribe chat on my website and have already said, hey, shared their thoughts about the live streams and stuff. It's pretty cool. Anyways, all right, let's get to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange hits the notes on the piano, right? And all of a sudden casts a spell, and all the little notes that were written down, which represent vibrations, right? Frequencies. All the notes come up off of the pages magically, and they start to float up into the air. And you can see all these little magical notes. And they're cartoonifying it. They're showing you so that you can understand. This is all very, well, it's real and it's also symbolic, okay? But it's amazing because this is the song of the world. This is what we use. These are our only weapons that we have. These are the only tools that are available to us. It's just that depending on how the song is put together, the physical manifestation is different, depending on how you put those vibrations together. Doctor Strange, being a wizard, would definitely be familiar with the weaponry, I guess you could say, of music, okay? Of how music can be used as a tool to defend or a weapon to protect. So he takes those vibrations that were on that page. All those notes turn into these like magical notes, and they get really sharp and stuff. And then he just kind of flings them right back at the sinister Strange, right? So throws all these musical notes at Sinister Strange. Now these notes are like kind of brilliant and orange and gold and shiny, like his normal magic that he uses, right? Sinister Strange is like getting hit with all these notes, like happy notes, I guess I would call them. Now, the cool thing about this is the music that is playing in the background matches these notes that you see on the screen. So all these tiny little notes, like there's all these little chimey, like, melodies being played and stuff. And as the notes hit stuff, the melodies actually get like distorted, just like you hit the wrong key on a piano. It's really interesting. And then whenever the Sinister Strange reacts, he stretches out some purple magic in the form of, I don't know what this is called. I forgot what this is called in music, or music theory. But there's this bracket that holds the notes, okay? So this makes perfect sense, musically, vibrationally speaking, right? You've got all these little random vibrations that are acting together as a sort of direct message or a song or whatever that he's playing for that guy because he's fighting him with spellcraft or talking or whatever you want to call it. But this is so beautiful the way they do it. So he blocks it by pulling out the framework which you put those notes onto, right? And then now that he has notes and he has a framework, he can rearrange those notes, turning them into other notes or chords. So he puts together this huge chord note and he shoots it out the other way at the other Doctor Strange. And these chords all break all over the place and the music starts changing and it's like dun 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 dun. You know what I mean? Like it's all the music is matching the style of the person who's fighting, right? So then Doctor Strange gathers all those chord pieces and those notes and stuff, and he rearranges all of those vibrations and he uses them because that's all we can really use is the vibrations that are given to us, right? If someone gives you bad vibrations, make lemon juice is basically what Doctor Strange is saying. Hey, Paul, it's good to see you, Paul. All right, so boom, Doctor Strange makes his own symphony, right? Just creates this huge symphonic wall of magic particles, throws them over at Sinister Strange. Sinister Strange, as you can see how they're kind of like ninja stars. They're kind of sharp and stuff. This is so epic. You don't even know, especially if you love art and you love music. This is so awesome to watch. I highly recommend checking this out. Anyways, so there's this musical battle going on between the sinister Doctor Strange and the regular Doctor Strange. They're battling it out. The music's all changing. Pretty soon the music just collides and it's this massive crescendo where they're stuck at an impasse, right? Doctor Strange looks over at this harp and he sees it and he goes, whoosh, and he just flings the tiniest little note. You see that tiny little note right there? That tiny little note, seemingly insignificant, comes over into the middle of all this war and raging chaos between the vibrations, goes into the midst, and it all explodes and comes apart. And that's how their wizard fight ends, which I think is amazing because that tiny note represents America, that little girl, right? She's the most insignificant one. It represents the girl, the main character in Encanto and so many other movies where the main character doesn't really have power or doesn't know how to use their power or doesn't seem like they're the coolest character or whatever. Or maybe they're just a regular person without powers or anything, right? But they become the key. They become like the cornerstone to everything. Everything is connected to them. Everything is for them. Everything is working with them. So they're actually the most important piece of all. All right, so we go back to the Scarlet Witch. She's sucking the life out of this chick. Finish him Mortal Kombat style. Sucking up her blue beam spirit. She's got all these different symbols and sigils and stuff like that on the table. Doctor Strange is rocking out. So he's rocking out, floating around. I'm just kidding. I don't know if he's rocking out or not. But that's what people do when they rock out, right? So I want to talk about that. These hand signals like this one. Some people might look at this and they just might be flabbergasted. It's in a Disney movie. Oh, it's a family film. Oh, it's this and that. They're doing the devil signs. You know, JayDreamerZ just did the devil sign. Jesus Christ, like, save them all. Isn't everyone is satanic? It's the devil left and right. Some people, that's their reality. Some people see that and they're scared and they get freaked out because somebody did this. This is symbolic, as is this, as is this, as is, let's see, this, as is this, as is this, as is this, as is all these hand signs. They mean things. I'm just trying to think of all the, there's different ones, all kinds of different hand signs. They all harken back to an actual meaning that carries an energy behind it, right? These horns represent the horned one of Kronos, or the horned one, right? The kron is horn. Kronos means horned one, or the devil, etc., which is the Scarlet Witch, which is the power of the plasma that is twisting around and twirling around. Usually the one horn goes up and the other horn goes down, etc., but it doesn't have to be like that all the time. Anyways, this is also when people are rocking out. And I think that's where the whole rock concept came from. Hard rock, heavy metal, all this stuff. And the symbolism with like satanic hand signals and stuff like that is because this plasma petrifies stuff, right? When it's very powerful, electric charge will petrify and turn things into stone, including living tissue and organic beings and stuff. They instantly petrify. So they turn into rock. And so because it's their god, the plasma that came down and turned things into rock, then rocking out and rock and roll and rock music and all that stuff sort of, stemmed from that. Anyway, all right, so he's still doing his little gesture and then he does the wink. He does the one eye symbolism on top of it. So we get more context as to where this power is coming from, right? He's utilizing the power of the plasma or magic, right? Which comes from the horned one in the sky, etc., the one eye in the sky, all that stuff, right? So he's doing that and he's totally looking right at us, making it very obvious. This is not, to me, this is not Hollywood making fun of us. This is information that is being shared. Whether or not we look into it, research it, and figure out the information so that we no longer fear it and demonize it is your choice. Otherwise, be amused. I don't know what else to say. Who said that they had to be living? So he's going to do some dream walking right now, remember? So he's going to go possess some other versions of himself. And the girl is like, you got to be alive in those universes. And he's like, who says you have to be alive? So now, after doing the one eye symbolism and the sign of the horns, we see lightning and storms and thunder because there's going to be a resurrection of the dead. There's going to be a zombie apocalypse. So all this dramatic music is playing, lightning is cracking off, and the dead Doctor Strange that they buried at the beginning on top of that building opens his eyes, comes back to life. Doctor Strange, through the red plasma, is going into the various universes, traveling right along those plasma conduits through astral projection. He is there. He doesn't have to physically be there. He can just mentally focus. That's all. So he goes there, he focuses, and he takes over the focus of the focus that's already there. He shares it, I guess you could say. It's kind of like if you play Fortnite, when you get killed in the game, right? There's a massive online multiplayer game where people are all killing each other, landing on this island, not knowing who they are, and then having to like kill everybody. If you die, it's not like your console shuts off, right? When you're playing Fortnite, it's not like the whole Nintendo Switch or Xbox or computer or whatever you use. It's not like it powers off and it's just, okay, that's it. I mean, people would be way more careful, I believe, like not so mindless jumping up and down trying to shotgun you 10 feet in there. So I think their time would be more valuable if their Switch would blow up when they die. But anyways, I'm digressing. My point is, when you die in Fortnite, your point of focus just simply shifts to another player because all the players are essentially the same. They're other people here on the other side of the video game. So anyways, Doctor Strange is going to go possess some other versions of himself. Those versions are dead. This is symbolic of the zombie apocalypse. This is symbolic of what people call in the religious world the resurrection, the day of judgment, when the dead rise. The dead get up and they walk, but it's not the dead as you used to know them. So your aunt or uncle who may have passed away or whatever, you see them getting up and walking around. They might not have any more of their own point of focus, energy signature left. Basically, it might not be them. It's just their body. Their body is possessed by the Scarlet Witch. Their body is possessed by Doctor Strange or by the red plasma conduits, right? So this zombie Doctor Strange, which is awesome, I love it, gets up and he's actually possessed by the other Doctor Strange in the other multiverse, and he's just sort of using his body and looking through his eyes and stuff, right? But that's a big no-no in the multiverse. You're not supposed to possess dead people. You can possess anyone else. You can dream walk through people who are alive, but there's weird rules out there. And there's these weird black spirits, these smoky black things, and this is a type that I was talking to you about that they show. It's a plasma type. Plasma under certain conditions looks black. Okay, fire, okay, can look black. If you check out the Action Lab, they did a really good experiment using low pressure sodium lamps, and then they showed you fire under the light of the low pressure sodium lamp, and the fire was black. Ta-da! That's what you get. You get these black spirits of death, these grim reapers and stuff that float around. Anyway, so they're chasing after Doctor Strange. Do you have any idea how many times I've tried not to say Doctor Who during this presentation? I just want to say that so I can get it out. All right, so then so they're starting to grab onto him and pull him under while he's working with this dead zombie avatar. The dead zombie avatar is all of a sudden like, hey, wait a minute, I forgot. I'm a wizard. I can actually manipulate energy. So these beings, these creatures are made of energy. So he just remembers how to manipulate that energy, and then he's no longer afraid of it. He actually uses it, takes all those souls and makes a sweet Doctor Strange dead soul cape. Living dead soul cape. I love this. This is amazing. It's got all his hands coming out like he's one of the ancient Hindu Vedic gods or something. Like he is Vishnu himself, basically looking for the Book of Vishnu. Basically turns into Vishnu. So now he's got this awesome living dead soul cape deal. He lands. He's about to try to fight the Scarlet Witch. He sends some of those soul things after her. And then the zombie Doctor Strange runs up to America Chavez, who they're trying to save. She says, "You're here to take my power, aren't you?" He says, "No, America. I've come here to tell you to trust yourself. Trust yourself, America. Trust your power." That's what the message is. America, trust yourself. Trust your power. That's how we stop her. That's how we stop the evil. That's how we stop the plasma. That's how we stop all the stuff. This message is really sending a really strong message, because if you think about it, the message is so strong, it comes across as in the movie as being is really subtle, right? So it becomes anticlimactic, basically. Like you're expecting something devastating to happen, but instead he's like, I just want to say I believe in you. You know what I mean? Like something that's very anticlimactic. That's because it's a very powerful message, and they've been speaking to you through cartoonifications and imagery. Now they're being direct. So it's a switching and it's a changing of gears. That's why it throws off the groove real suddenly, right? When the zombie, the unliving dead guy or whatever is like, I believe in you. You know what I mean? But that's a strong message. We're being told, hey, we believe in you. Whoever up there, our higher self, God, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We believe in you. Okay. America, ever living souls. Now, I'm not just talking about a nation or a country or any borders. I'm talking about immortal souls. We believe in you. The movie is reaching out to many of you saying that, hey, you need to believe in you. Okay. We believe in you. The last step, the last one is you. You need to believe in yourself. So she does. She believes in herself. She gets her star power magic back. Fa-pow. Totally starts beating up with stars and stuff. And then she opens up a portal because she can't kill the Scarlet Witch. So instead, remember the Scarlet Witch is a mother and she just wants to have her kids in every universe. So she shows him her kids. She's like, here's your kids. And then the kids are like, oh my God. And they freak out. They're like, Mom, it's the witch. Because remember, they have their own universe version of the mom, right? She just wants to be the mom in all the universes and basically kill all those other versions of herself because she feels like her experience is the main experience. Her experience is the main event. All those other ones are little branches and they don't matter, basically, which is selfish. It's actually selfish to the self, which is interesting. Is that selfish? So the kids are freaking out. Why? Because she's doing something. She's not seeing the bigger picture, which is love. Okay, so that's why she's being shown. What would your kids think about you doing this right now? Like you're about to murder somebody to take their power so that you can be the best mom in the universe. But you have to murder somebody and take their power to do it. And you're saying it's for your kids? Well, you know what I mean? Like, let's show you your kids. And the kids are freaking out. And then the other version of her comes out and she's like, oh my God, trying to stop them. Fa-pow. They have a little sorceress fight or whatever. And the kids are like, please don't hurt us. And that breaks the mom's heart, which, oh man, like the happy thought, you know what I mean? Like that can also be what you need. And it can be a sad thought, actually. The happy thought can feel like a sad thought when you first start thinking about it, right? Like she is right now. She's thinking of the happy thought of her kids loving her and being a family and how much she loves her kids. And that's why she's crying. That's why her heart is breaking and the evil is fleeting from her body. Because she's thinking about the happy thought. Her kids are like, please don't hurt us. And she's like, oh my God, I would never hurt them. That's a happy thought, right? But the reality is that she would be destructive and hurt other people for them. And that she would do things that terrify and freak out her kids that her kids don't approve of. You know what I mean? Now this part's cool because the good version of her in this other alternate universe extends her hand to the bad one, touches her face and makes a physical connection. Can you imagine how good that would feel? It feels good when other people touch us these days, right? People touch us lovingly, like, you know, it feels nice to be touched because they've taken the sensation of touch away from us. They don't want us. They want us apart. I forgot how far apart these days. I lost track. I don't care. But they don't want us to actually hug and kiss and touch and feel and share. You know why? Because that's one way that you can share your energy and even memories and other things with other people is through touch. Whenever the energy in the world is lacking and it's minimal, you need to touch in order to experience telepathy and stuff, right? Anyways, you don't have to, but that's one way that you can do it. But my point is, imagine how good it would feel if your other version like just gave you a hug. If you gave yourself a big old hug, you know what I mean? It's just such a nice thought. You know what I mean? Like to love yourself, to care about yourself, you know, to know that you would not ever hurt yourself, that you wouldn't want to hurt yourself, right? That's the last person you'd want to hurt. Anyways, yeah, that part was like very personal for me. All right, so Doctor Strange totally won the wizard's duel, and he's looking up at the plasma apocalypse sky, and another touch, right? Human touch. It establishes a circuit. It helps to reinvigorate our electromagnetic energy in our body. Like, oh, I can't even stress that enough. Like they've tried to take that away from us, or encourages us to not want to be touched. You know what I mean? Which is crazy. So she says, face your fears, Doctor Strange. And she's talking to you, and she's talking to me. Face your fears. That's what this is all about, right? Facing our fears. And he's like, that's basically kind of sort of the end of the movie, and they're just kind of chilling and stuff with his buddy. And he's like, I want to ask you something. Are you happy? Right? Are you happy? That's what it's really about. This whole entire movie is about Doctor Strange. Like, hey man, can you be happy even though you lost somebody? Or even though you can't have someone in this experience, can you still be thankful? So his friend says, sometimes I do wonder about my other lives. Just like all of us do, right? Sometimes we wonder what it's like out there, what other choices we made, and where we might go next, right? He says, yet I remain grateful for this one. I'm grateful for this one. Despite all of its tribulations, like he says, even with its tribulations, even with its downs, it's got its ups and it has its downs. And I love them. They're unique and they're beautiful and they're different. And no one else has walked this path. Not even me. Not even all the other versions of me. And that makes it valuable. It's a valuable experience to have. Each one of them. He says, at least we don't have to go through it alone, huh? And then he bows to his buddy. And it's actually an ongoing joke throughout the movie. Doctor Strange did not bow down to him because he's like the high wizard or whatever. He doesn't want to bow down to him. His pride was in the way. But when his friend said to him, I'm grateful for the life that I have, even though I have many, right? I'm grateful for this one, despite its tribulations. That's when Doctor Strange bows. And I love that. I love that that's how they end the movie. All right, so everything's good. Doctor Strange is going for a walk. You know, the credits are about to roll, but all of a sudden he hits the ground. You think the movie's over, but he hits the ground, starts freaking out, he's screaming and stuff, and then he looks up and boom, that third eye pops open again, which is an indicator that it's possible somewhere out there, there's another Doctor Strange. There's another Doctor Strange who is still dreamwalking and is now possibly possessing this Doctor Strange. So you never know which Doctor Strange it is, right? And then you think that's the end of the movie, right? So Doctor Strange, boom, roll the credits, etc. But is it though? Because there's actually another bonus scene at the end of the movie after the credits, where he's just taking a walk. He's like, can I help you? Because somebody calls out to him. And it's this crazy, interesting chick dressed all in purple who has this like psychic knife type thing. And she says, you caused an incursion, which is a destruction of two worlds, basically, right? An apocalypse. And she says, we're going to fix it together. So she slices open a hole in their reality and you can see the multiverse on the other side. I don't know what's going on with that. They're just alluding to like, you know, the next Doctor Strange movie. And when you look out there, you look at this world, right? This world that they're showing you that's out there in the multiverse or whatever. If you look at this fractally, this looks like it's actually something that's microscopic. That's super tiny, like a little protozoa spore type, you know, whatever. I don't know what they call all this stuff. But that's kind of what it looks like to me. So it looks like they're going to travel the fractalverse beyond the multiverse and get into the tiny universes that appear big when you go into them. Unless you're afraid. But he needs to face his fears. So his third eye opens. He's like, not in the least. And that is the ending to Doctor Strange. I know it was a pretty ugly eye, right? It was pretty creepy looking. But yeah. Anyways, I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was an awesome movie. The wizard fight with the musical notes and everything. Oh my God, that was so cool. I really liked that. That was one of my favorite ones. I also really enjoyed talking to everyone in the chat yesterday when we had our gigantic growth discussion. I really enjoyed that. And I look forward to more things in the future. Thank you so much for visiting the websites. Thank you so much for all your good vibes. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking and all that stuff that you guys are doing and stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm honored. Anyway, I love chilling and just watching these movies with you. So I hope we can do this for a long time. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to